There's a moment during boarding where everything feels slower than it should, like the system is working, but not quite as well as it could. People shuffle forward, pause, adjust their bags, and somehow the entire process stretches longer than expected, even though it looks organized on the surface. It makes you wonder if there's a better way hiding in plain sight. So why do airplanes load passengers from front to back, even when it seems inefficient? The answer turns out to be more layered than you'd expect, involving trade-offs that aren't immediately obvious. Let's break it all down, right here, on History of Simple Things. At first glance, boarding from front to back feels organized. People enter, move forward, find their row, and sit down. It looks structured, and that matters more than you might think. Airports handle thousands of passengers daily, and airlines prioritize systems that are predictable and easy to manage. Even if a method isn't perfectly efficient, consistency reduces confusion. Imagine calling passengers in a random order or using a highly optimized but complicated boarding system. It could create hesitation, crowding, and delays. Front-to-back boarding provides a simple mental model. Follow the aisle, find your seat, and keep moving. That sense of order helps keep the process manageable, even if it's not the fastest possible approach. The real issue with boarding isn't just where people sit, it's how they move. Airplane aisles are narrow and only one person can pass at a time. When someone stops to place luggage in the overhead bin, everyone behind them has to wait. This creates a bottleneck effect that slows everything down. In theory, boarding from back to front could reduce these traffic jams by spreading passengers out. But in practice, people don't move perfectly. Some arrive late, some take longer to store bags, and others block the aisle unintentionally. So even if a back-to-front system is faster on paper, real human behavior often cancels out those gains. Airlines tend to favor a system that's predictable over one that's theoretically optimal but harder to execute. Another reason planes don't strictly load back to front is priority boarding. Airlines allow certain passengers, like those in first class, business class, or with elite status, to board first. This immediately breaks any purely efficiency-based system. These passengers are seated at the front, so they naturally board earlier, regardless of what might be optimal for overall speed. Families with small children, passengers needing assistance, and military personnel are often invited early as well. By the time general boarding begins, the front of the plane is already partially filled. At that point, maintaining a clean back-to-front sequence becomes nearly impossible. The boarding process becomes a hybrid system, shaped more by customer experience and policy than pure efficiency. One of the biggest hidden factors in boarding strategy is overhead storage. Passengers want to keep their carry-on bags close to their seats, but space is limited. If boarding were strictly back to front, passengers seated at the rear would fill overhead bins near them first. That sounds fine, but once those bins fill up, later passengers might place their bags in bins farther forward, then walk back to their seats. This creates additional movement against the flow of traffic, slowing things down even more. Front-to-back boarding helps reduce this kind of backtracking. People are more likely to use the nearest available bin as they move inward, keeping the flow more consistent. It's not perfect, but it minimizes chaotic movement inside an already tight space. There have been many studies on faster boarding methods. Some suggest boarding window seats first, then middle, then aisle. Others propose completely randomized boarding to reduce clustering. In controlled experiments, These methods can outperform traditional systems. But real airports aren't controlled environments. Airlines deal with late arrivals, gate changes, language barriers, and varying passenger behavior. A complex boarding strategy might save a few minutes in theory, but lose those gains in confusion and enforcement. Staff would need to carefully monitor who boards when, and passengers would need to understand and follow instructions precisely. In reality, simplicity wins. Front-to-back boarding is easy to explain, easy to enforce, and reliable under imperfect conditions. Airlines don't just care about boarding speed, they care about total turnaround time. That includes unloading passengers, cleaning the cabin, refueling, and boarding the next group. Boarding is just one piece of a larger puzzle. A slightly faster boarding method doesn't help much if it complicates other parts of the process. For example, cleaning crews often start at the front and work their way back. Coordinating that with a strict back-to-front boarding system could create conflicts. Ground operations are tightly scheduled, and even small disruptions can ripple through the entire day. So airlines choose systems that fit smoothly into the bigger operation, even if they aren't the absolute fastest in isolation. Airplane boarding seems like something that should have a perfectly optimized answer, but it doesn't, because it has to deal with people, not just theory. What looks inefficient at first is really a system built to handle unpredictability without falling apart. Front-to-back boarding isn't about being the fastest possible method. It's about being the one that still works when things aren't perfectly controlled. And that's what makes it interesting. It's a small, everyday example of how many systems around us aren't designed for perfection, but for stability, quietly prioritizing what works over what looks best on paper. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.